Ichigo awakens by Talacha, Chapter 62, Lord of Swords, meeting between Zanpakuto and Shinigami. So much power, Muramasa thought in awe of the spirit he had unleashed. With him, I can finally get to Yamamoto. Soon, you'll be freed. Most of the other Zanpakuto seem a little apprehensive around the table, and he understood why. Aside from the amount of power, it was dark and hungry, almost as if it was ready to consume everything around it. Some other Zanpakuto seemed to be looking at him with some confusion, but also longing. Welcome, come, he started to say, keeping up the image of the freedom fighter, but he froze when the dark figure spoke. Get out of here, Zangetsu simply said, while creating two blades in his hands, one long kyber knife blade with a hollow out portion in the middle of the blade, and a smaller trench knife the size of his arm with an enclosed handle. You'll only be in my way. Most of the Zanpakuto wanted to heed his words, others felt like they should push their chance. Zangetsu, we have a chance to end it all here. Benihime started. I can still. She was silenced when Zangetsu's kyber blade found her neck and was ready to cut through it. No one is killing the king, he stated coldly while his Reiatsu burned like fire. But me. He pushed the mannequin girl away and faced Ichigo again. Now go. You only get killed if you stay. Many Soul Reapers and Zanpakuto began to either flee or attack the other side while getting as far from the other two hybrids as possible. Muramasa glared at Zangetsu, concerned about that king comment, until he was dragged away by Yachiru and Shirayuki. And Zangetsu always uses the horse and king analogy when he's referring to himself in Ichigo, Nozorashi said in a lifeless tone. Until he wins, Ichigo will still be called king. That's just who Zangetsu is, Shirayuki added as they fled. Muramasa didn't seem convinced, but the power radiating from the two was enough to convince him to get as far away as he could with Ichigo and Zangetsu. So, why are you rebelling? Ichigo asked his lifelong companion, staring into those cold, hungry eyes behind that fearsome mask. Sick of playing a horse, want to be my own king? Stuff like that, Zangetsu answered, charging a zero between his horns. Ichigo responded by raiding Getsuga Tensho, both attacks forming from the ambient reishi and their own power. With a roar, they fired their attacks at each other and formed a massive explosion blast from the collision, the shockwave destroying the remains of Sokiko Hill, most of the buildings in the immediate vicinity, and fractured much of the Serite. Old man's gonna be pissed about this when he sees it. Ichigo sighed mentally as he saw the destruction. He and Zangetsu then used their high-speed movements to dodge and attack each other, in creating shockwaves with every clash. And so what's really going on? The hybrid asked through their mental connection once the two got into a blade lock. That emo prick is manipulating the other Zanpakuto, the sword answered as they continued to fight, backing off to fire thousands of arrows at the other. I felt it when he was calling out to me. While keeping up the image of them fighting, Ichigo got a good look at the battlefield. The Zanpakuto were easily overpowered, powering most of the Shinigami, with only most of the captains and lieutenants able to fight back. He did catch a glimpse of Byakuya being chased by a samurai, with thousands of flower petals coming from his sword hilt, and Ganju throwing fireworks at a giant sand figure. From the looks of it, he takes the main weakness or hate they have and uses it to put them under his thrall. And you're unaffected, Ichigo continued as they directed their fight to get in the way of most of the Zanpakutos attacking the weaker Soul Reapers, pacifying them with much more fearsome displays of power. Anyone else? Hard to say. Zangetsu charged another Getsuga through his sword, while Ichigo mimicked the action. They collided with each other and exploded. A loud snap preceded what resembled a nuclear explosion, leaving the two with horrific burns and missing limbs, which were already healing rapidly. Maybe because I'm not a traditional Zanpakuto blade, we have no reason to hate each other, or because I'm too strong for him. Either way, I'm not under his control. So you're planning to infiltrate and gather intelligence? Ichigo asked as the two settled down, as the remaining Soul Reapers fled to the Squad 4 barracks, which were somehow still standing, and the Zanpakuto fled Serite altogether. Might as well, Zangetsu responded, relaxing now that they didn't need to keep up the act. Something about Muramasa doesn't add up, and I don't get to spend nearly enough time around the other Zanpakuto. You guys socialize? Ichigo asked as he got ready to leave. Of course we do, the blade responded. Sometimes we enter each other's worlds once we're in proximity, and there's an entire dimension where we gather at will through stability. Though stability is questionable, and Getsui is as annoying as your dad. Let me tell you. And now I have nightmares, Ichigo said aloud as the smoke and dust began to disappear. I'll see you, Sangetsu. Goodbye, Ichigo. The two hybrids separated after that, Ichigo heading for Squad 4 while Sangetsu headed out to find the other Sanpakuto. Squad 4 barracks. Get these men to the OR. They need surgery. Unohana calmly ordered her, making her squad move to obey. She soon joined the remaining captains and a few of the lieutenants to receive a damage report. How bad is it? Squad barracks 2 and 12 are still standing. Kyoraku answered, taking command in lieu of Yamamoto. Squad 14 is functioning due to it being so widespread in the Rukana, though they have been attacked in one district in particular. Surprised anything is still standing after that fight between Ichigo and his Sanpakuto. Master took a shine to him for a reason. Shunsui Ukitake said, hoping to leave the situation. I would have held back, but we needed to clear everyone out, Ichigo said, appearing before them. Good news and bad news. Good news is, where's Byakuya and Zaraki? He asked, seeing most of the captains except for Byakuya and Kenpachi. Byakuya has yet to appear and Zaraki needed to be restrained. Soifon answered, followed by a loud, angry, and muffled roar that was Kenpachi. He's not happy about losing Yachiru. Right, good news is that Sanpakuto are not rebelling, Ichigo said, earning a sigh of relief and surprise from all captains. The bad news is they're being controlled, Urahara continued, earning a nod from Ichigo. That explains this. Kisuke pulled down his sleeve to reveal the phrase, no choice, written in stitches in his arm. Benihim's Bankai is restricting, allowing me to take apart and rebuilding anything she chooses. She wrote down this hint when I was searching for the anomaly that we now know to be Muramasa. How did you figure this out, Ichigo? Rukia asked, supporting her captain. We watched Muramasa turn Sangetsu against you. You saw Sangetsu manifest, Ichigo responded. We made it look like he was under their command so he could get answers. Like what is really going on? Sangetsu never betrayed me. Any idea why? Shinji asked, curious as to what made any Sanpakuto exempt from Muramasa's influence. Maybe Muramasa's overtaxing himself, Sangetsu's just too strong, or because he's not a pure Shinigami Sanpakuto, the hybrid suggestion. We'll just have to wait and see from there. In the meantime, I suggest every Soul Reaper should fight their own Sanpakuto. Sangetsu says Muramasa takes the weak link of the bond between Shinigami and Sanpakuto to take control of them. Might be enlightening for some Soul Reapers. Soifun pushed off the wall and began to walk off. The able-bodied of Squad 2 will take first watch. Figure out who's next among yourselves, she said before disappearing. Rukia, let's gather what Shinigami we can and ready them for the next shift, Ukitake ordered as he went off to find who he could. Yes, sir, Rukia responded, following her captain. Kyoraku and Ichigo faced each other. Ichigo, and keep to try to keep damage to a minimum, the aching leader ordered. While I agree it would be for the best for each Soul Reaper to face their own Sanpakuto, we can't waste any time. If you come across any, bring them down. Ichigo nodded mutually to the captain. Good. Now get to a vantage point. Rest if you need it, but I want you ready to fight at a moment's notice. With Zaraki the next day. When I see that bastard, I'm going to carve him into pieces. The Kenpachi growled as he ran through the Serete. Byakuya was still missing, and they had yet to find where the Sanpakuto were hiding. Someone suggested jogging, and he had been running for the past 5 hours. He was mad before losing his surrogate daughter and sword spirit. But when he heard they were under Muramasa's mental manipulation, he became livid. For his own sake, Unohana put some of his bells back in his hair. They were only reactive to people that had strength on par with his own, so the only ones that could make them ring were herself, Ichigo, Zangetsu, and Nosoraki, and it started to ring when he finally stopped running. He closed his eye and felt her coming straight ahead like he would always do. When he opened his eyes, he saw the pink-haired little girl that was his Sanpakuto spirit. Her eyes were blank and lifeless, but she was crying constantly. Hello, Zaraki, she said, hollow and cold, glaring at the Kenpachi with her lifeless eyes. What was it that Muramasa had to use? He asked his sword. What did he use to turn you against me, Yachiru? Her movements grew shaky as she grabbed her small blade at her side. Those sounds of crying starting to come. You always want to be alone? She answered, pulling her sword out and creating a large skeleton with a line of bone, splitting the skull in half vertically, and a large furry ball with only its eyes visible, both of which carried a blade. I was always by your side, but you never relied on me. Why did you hate me, Kenny? Zaraki felt like his heart was crushed, but he stood strong and tall. I'm sorry, Nosaraki, he said, calling out the name of his Sanpakuto. The only thing I wanted was to fight, to prolong them as much as possible. I distanced myself from you in that pursuit of combat, but you found a way to be by my side. He never once reached for his sword, but he opened his shihakusho and dropped his guard. If you truly hate me, then come and kill me now, because I will not fight you. You are the only one to stay by my side through everything. He closed his eyes and accepted what was to come. All of Serite heard Yachiro's heartbreaking yell. Kira versus Wabisuke. Ichigo and his Sanpakuto did a number on the entire city, and Kira whispered in fearful awe as he made his patrol through the remains of the Serite. It was his last district as he tried to get a full scope of the damage from the attack last night, and even the functioning buildings were heavily damaged. If Aizen were to attack now, they'd be like lambs to the slaughter, defenseless and weak. He kept running until he heard a familiar sound of chains rattling, a harsh melody that reminded him of the weights that crushed a man's soul. He looked ahead and saw the figure of a man carrying a giant white slab of rock on his back with a large steel ball that probably weighed twice what the stone did, and carrying a hooked sword shambling towards him. Wabisuke, Kira, the two greeted each other, both with a level of disdain. Kira with the betrayal of his weapon, and Wabisuke with the contempt of his former captain. I won't ask why you chose to side with Muramasa. Isuru continued as they came closer to each other, ready to fight him. Any of the reason I loathe myself come to mind. I couldn't stop Captain Ichimaru from leaving. I'd latched onto Captain Otoribase the moment he took over the third division instead of becoming captain myself. I could hardly protect my friends during Ichigo's attack on the Seirei. I know I am pathetic, Wabisuke. Then there is no need to talk, the tortured Sanpakuto said, just before Akira appeared before him and unleashed a large barrage of strikes. Wabisuke easily blocked each attack, curious as to why his former master would use such a pointless tactic when it would render the blade in his hand useless. Kira finally ended his assault, and the Sanpakuto felt his feet being pulled out from under him. Bakudo form, Hainiwa, Kira whispered as he trapped his Sanpakuto and angled the sword's edge over Wabisuke's neck. I know I'm pathetic, but I've learned from my losses, he yelled as he let the sword's increased weight drop like a guillotine on Wabisuke's neck. His head separated from his body and both disappeared to reveal the hooked blade of his shikai. The lieutenant stood his hooked blade up and sat down in front of it. I don't mind that I was never made captain, and frankly, I'm not too sure why I was made lieutenant. I don't think I have what it takes to even be a leader. He grasped the blade as he returned to his soul. Some people are meant to lead, like Captain Kuchiki, Otoribashi, Yamamoto, even Captain Kurosaki, despite his laziness. Others are just meant to follow, like Momo and myself, but I don't feel ashamed for that. Those that lead are the ones that direct us to greatness, while those that follow are the ones that build the foundations of that greatness. Those thoughts, they lift my burden just a little, Wabisuke, he finished with a smile, basking in the wind as he let that thought sink in. Then do us both a favor and stop being so depressing, Wabisuke groaned, earning a small chuckle from his wielder. With Urahara? Fascinating, Maruri said with glee as he analyzed the raw data pouring before him. It seemed that our Sanpakuto spirits have been completely removed from us and now exist as separate entities. He had several probes and jacks inserted to his skull and body to examine the state of the Shinigami after Muramasa's alleged liberation. Most of the time he and Urahara spent at the division was spent restoring what systems they prioritized, monitoring and defenses. Urahara himself was keeping an eye on the surveillance monitors to try to find the hiding places of the Sanpakuto and the fights that were occurring. Right now Izuru and Wabisuke met. Renji was fighting the two halves of Zabimaru, and Ichigo found someone they thought missing. It seems like that's the case, though we may need to change that theory, Urahara said before typing out a command and sending the video feed to Mayuri. Now watching Renji fighting with his shikai, we have been separated, but if we prove ourselves to our Sanpakuto in some facet and regain their respect, then we'll get our shikai at least. So Muramasa doesn't completely sever the connection. Seems like the theory of favor is that the Soul Reaper in question has no personal troubles. Maruri sighed, wondering what severed his connection to his Ashi Soji Jizo. That might ease the concern of the Sanpakto being defeated and us losing them. We'll have to test that. Urahara agreed while shifting the feeds to see Hisagi managing to flee from his Kashijini and finding Muramasa, who seemed to be having trouble staying corporeal. Maybe Zangetsu can do that. He'll be finding their hiding places soon enough. He said, settling on the fight between Lieutenant Matsumoto and Hinamari against their Sanpakto. Rangoku and Momo versus Hanako and Tobiume. I told you, Tobiume. Momo yelled out, unconsciously summoning her Shikai. I'm done with being weak. She swung her blade and countered the fireballs that her blade spirit sent at her. The two were fighting for a good while in terms of actual combat. I'm tired of always being the one protected, tired of getting all the pity, tired of being the little girl Aizen took advantage of, she yelled as she forced her blade on the defensive, and I refuse to think that any part of my being, separate or otherwise, still thinks I'm all right with being that pathetic. She pointed her pronged saber at her bell wielding spirit. I may be a gentle person, but I am still a lieutenant, and I will not back down anymore. She seems better, Rangiku mused as she and Hanako watched the two petite girls clash, settling their own disputes. So, did you really rebel because I didn't ride it till my legs gave out? She asked her cat girl sword spirit, who promptly scoffed. No, she denied, not looking her former wielder in the face. Not entirely. Certainly a factor, but it plays into my biggest gripe with you, the ash cat declared, now facing Rangiku. You used to be so much more active, so full of life and youth, then you became a lieutenant to that lazy bum of the captain and turned into such a killjoy. I thought you'd go back to your usual self when that brat became captain, but then you just turned into a lazy drinker. You stopped being fun. You got old. Rangiku glared at her sword, and she then shook her head and continued, Even now, you're just sitting on your ass instead of pursuing that hot guy that's clearly warming his way into your heart. If Jin thought about you that way, he wouldn't have asked Ichigo to be the better man. You were his little sister and nothing more. The only excuse you have left is that you're only holding back. I'm X times his age, or I'm a lieutenant, or it'd be unprofessional. He clearly doesn't care and thinks you're still one of the sexiest women he's seen, and he's married a lieutenant while being a lieutenant himself with a harem. Hanako continued to lash out at her mistress. Try taking that plunger and stop teasing him. Open up your heart again or don't. I'll take him if you're too much of a pussy and not the fun kind. She challenged vulgarly and earned a blush from her Shinigami. She was about to attack before getting hit by her ally. Look out! Tobiruni cried out as she slammed into Hanako from the side. Did your flabby body make it too hard to dodge? She rudely insulted her teammate just before she was bound in Kido wrapped. Rangiku, are you hurt? Momo asked, seeing how red Matsumoto's face was. Shall we take them back or have them return to us? I say neither. Another voice suggested before the entire area was engulfed in a suffocating Reitsu. As soon as it appeared, it faded, and the two lieutenants saw the black masked and horned visage of Sanketsu. He brought up a clawed finger before slicing through the Kido binds like wet paper. I'll be taking them and leaving, he said simply before doing just that, grasping them on the shoulders and disappearing from the spot. Sanpakto hideout, a cave of Sekiseki stone, Sanketsu mused as he entered the hideaway of the Sanpakto. Inside, he heard the remaining Sanpakto talk about losing Wabisuke and Sabimaru, as well as discussing their latest addition, a Shinigami captain. Now that's interesting, he thought as he went further inside to see Byakuya declare his intent to follow his instincts and pride, just the same as the Sanpakto. Just because you helped my escape of the other Soul Reapers doesn't mean we'll automatically trust you, Muramasa declared as the other Sanpakto readied their weapons. If you want to prove yourself, Byakuya Kuchiki, it must be something drastic. The man in samurai armor, Senbon Sakura, if he had guessed, stated, a Sanpakto slain by anyone but their wielder will be gone for good. He took a moment to scan the group and found his target. Slay your sister, Sanpakto. The room gasped as the red-skinned Imania and the skeleton in rags moved in front of Shiraraku. What are you talking about? Demanded the snake woman. We're not letting anyone hurt the big sis. The skeleton rattled his jaw in agreement as the serpent produced a curved dagger like snake fang and water while the skeleton pulled out a pitch black scythe. And Sekuken Moku, relax. The large man Hokyumaru stated, Byakuya loves his sister too much for him to just kill her Senpakto. The inverted mummy stated automatically identified as Sakandi. The other Senpakto grinned in anticipation of striking down Byakuya when he fails to prove himself, while others seemed less convinced. Sushi Mebachi, the little fairy girl, seemed distraught herself. Zangetsu, the hybrid blade looked at the Tobume, who was clutching at his robes with Haneko and looking at him with pleading eyes. Is this right? We're turning against our own simply to test one of the Shinigami we're rebelling against them? Don't worry, Zangetsu assured them. The only thing this will test is how much I hurt them, he said just as Byakuya viciously attacked Shirayuki. Byakuya held the upper hand until Shirayuki began to use her Suki Shiro ability. Eventually, Byakuya managed to get behind her with a flash step evasion move and trapped her in the Kido spell. Rikujokoro. If it's for the sake of my pride, there's nothing I won't destroy, Byakuya declared as he was about to cut through the ice woman. And this is where I draw the line, Zangetsu said, just before moving to save Churaruki at the last second. Sorry for the wait, my dear, he whispered to her as she took the moment to realize he's still alive. Zangetsu, she cheered in joy, wrapping her arms around him as he freed her from the spell. He returned to the assembly of Senpakto spirits along with Byakuya. He was really about to kill her, Muramasa mused. Soul Reaper without their Senpakto is good as dead. He was stopped as Zangetsu punched him in the throat and sent him flying into the cave walls. Just as the other Senpakto were about to react, Zangetsu flashed behind them with blood dripping from their claws. Most of the Senpakto dropped to their knees as blood spurting from their chest. The only one unaffected were the ones that protected the callous attacks on one of their own. Keep this in mind, the hybrid growled as the visored Senpakto got up first and giving him a knowing glare. We are not invincible and we only have each other. He headed towards a large stone before flicking his wrist and shredding it with thin reishi threads, leaving him a simple chair formation. If we can so easily turn on our backs on our own like this, simply to demand the loyalty of one of the very people we freed ourselves from, then how are we better? He sat down on his makeshift throne as Shiruka appeared at his side, along with Haneko, Tobune, Susumibachi, the now named Sekikun and Moku, even some of the Senpakto that he slashed like Hokimaru and Kujaku. If you're so ready to act to cast aside one ally to bring in someone that might be a double agent, then I doubt your quality as a leader, Muramasa. From now on, I'll call the shots, Zangetsu declared, creating a standoff between the ones following Muramasa and his own side. As for you, Kuchiki, he said, gaining the noble's attention before appearing behind him with the thin cut on Byakuya's neck. The moment I think you'll betray us, I'll kill you. The hybrid returned to his throne while Muramasa glared at him before kneeling down. Very well, you now command us. With Ichigo Kuchi House. Now, let's find those archives, Ichigo said to himself. He met with Byakuya just as he was about to follow Muramasa through a poorly made garganta, stopping him with an oddly vicious attack. When Ichigo demanded an answer, Byakuya referred to Ichigo by his first name and said it was his pride that compelled him. He attacked Ichigo again and slipped something into his Shihakusho and leave him before Ichigo could counterattack. Ichigo now had a key, one that Rukia recognized as one to the Kuchiki family archives. It seemed that Byakuya wanted to send him a message. He never referred to Ichigo as anything but his full name when they spoke, and Byakuya's pride as a Kuchiki meant that something connected to his family was responsible for this mess, or that was what Ichigo got out of it, and he might be walking into a trap. If Byakuya is trying to tell you anything, then it must be related to Koga Kuchiki, Kyoraku told him when he reported the incident. The memory of the conversation replaying in Ichigo's mind as he ventured deeper into the archives. He married into the clan while the previous head, Jinrie Kuchiki was still captain of the 6th. At the time, there was a rebellion, and he showed to be instrumental to our victory. Then, I'm sure you know how the story plays out. Some of the higher-ups got concerned, had him imprisoned, and he snapped and turned against us. He was eventually defeated and sealed with only Old Man Yomoto left to know his location. Exiled clans, betrayed Shinigami looking for revenge. No wonder everyone says I'm changing Soul Society for the better. Ichigo groaned as he finally found a secret alcove in the archives that was labeled Exiles. This place was terrible before. He unlocked the hidden door before finding a scroll that was labeled Kokakuchiki, the only scroll there. Now, let's see. The hybrid whispered as he opened the scroll and scanned its contents. Married into the clan, a third seed, leader of a special unit, Sanpakuto Muramasa. Now this'll come in handy. Ichigo began to study the notes of Jinrei Kuchiki on how to combat the Sanpakuto Muramasa. Illustrated guide to Soul Reapers. The undeveloped Shinigami. Come on, Isani groaned, using the last of the anesthesia and cold packs on a patient with a fever and in need of pain medication. I need help. I've got it. She heard someone say as she turned to see an equally tall and well endowed woman in white winter clothes and yak horns breathing a cold air on her patient. The patient himself seemed to relax as the air did the trick. All better. Thanks, Itagumo, Isane said happily. What would I do without you? Sapakto and Soul Reaper beamed at each other before remembering that they were currently enemies. Before the spirit could act, Isane pulled out her sword and stabbed her Sapakto spirit through the chest and caused her to turn into her Shikai blade. The blade dropped to the ground with a clatter as Isane felt like crying. Is this all the character development I get? The undeveloped Sanpakuto in a mountainous landscape with falling snow all around, rested a single cottage housing Itagumo and Isane Kotetsu. Both were sitting around a small fire. The Sanpakuto pouting while the Shinigami pleaded with her sword. Itagumo, please tell me, why did you leave me? Isane asked, trying to understand herself as well as her Sanpakuto. Obviously, it's because you... She paused, trying to think of the reason why she turned on her mistress before coming to her full answer. I didn't actually have a reason, she cried, eyes brimming with tears. Do we ever get a character arc? Isane asked, just about to cry as well. Isane, his sword and Soul Reaper embraced each other. Itagumo, the two cried as the dams broke. The little scalpel. What's wrong, little guy? Sangetsu was walking through the streets of the Serite until he saw a little white robot that was looking dejected. The small robot had a dot and a vertical line for eyes as it turned to face the hybrid spirit. I have no problems with my wielder, the Sanpakuto spirit said, almost reminding Sangetsu of a timid medic Ichigo met a while ago. But I can't seem to return to him. Maybe he doesn't want me. Ah, that's not it, little guy, Sangetsu assured, removing the mask on his face. You're just stuck like this until either he defeats you or you just die. The robot started shaking in fear. That came out wrong. Look, if you don't have a problem, then just go back to him, Sangetsu said before standing upright. I'll make it easy for you. He then vaporized the kid bot with a point-blank zero. Meanwhile, at Squad 4's Energy Relief Center, Hisagomaru, Hanatoro cried, cradling his now lifeless blade. I'm sorry for making you hate me. The medic stood up and wiping his tears away before holding his sword out. Fulfill Hisagomaru. He desperately called out, getting a small robot to appear instead of his Shikai scalpel. Hisagomaru? The robot looked up at the medic. Master! The robot cried before hugging his wielder. Hanataro returned the embrace before screaming like a girl. Breaks over! Back to work! Yasuchika ordered, making both the timid Soul Reaper and Sanpakuto run like crazy and getting separated by going in different directions. New Sanpakuto, Homoko's Seikoken, a long dagger with water and snake designs that allow the wielder to automatically react to defend or attack anyone that comes within range, based on the technique from history's strongest disciple, Kenichi. Weakness is that it's only as fast as Homaru is. Shizuku Moku, a size similar to what he used in the movie, only black, and he has the energy attacks dark Rukium used. Weakness is that the attack drains a lot of Reishi. End of chapter 62.